And we want to first of all inform the country that the general public that the country is very peaceful. We don't have any incidents of significant security interest. Our operations in Karamoja have helped to counter the incursions as well as cattle raids in the Karamoja region. In Bunagana, where we had the influx of refugees, it has stopped for, I think, the last 2 weeks, so it's generally peaceful. Now, this is a week where school children are returning to school, and some of the children returned last week. As usual, the IGP usually takes this opportunity to wish all students and school administrators a safe, healthy, and successful second term. It is always an opportunity for students and pupils to resume their studies, meet colleagues, classmates, and teachers. But it is always important that we remind school administrators on the security guidelines that were actually given to them to ensure that our pupils continue with their studies under a safe, health, and secure school environment. The security tips that we usually give to schools while opening are important in reminding parents, carers, and teachers about the safety of children. And wherever children are returning to school, there is usually an increase in activities like transporting the children to school, the day scholars. There's usually congestion on the roads due to rush hours of dropping and picking them from school. So we want to basically remind all schools to review their security, emergency preparations, supervision, and other school safety fundamentals. The visitor procedures and access controls in all schools need to be strictly followed. And we always call upon the matrons, especially of the girl child, to use this opportunity to also examine children returning to school for any signs of child abuse during their holiday. For those who walk their children to school, that is day scholars or drop their children to school, it is important that they walk with them and avoid just dropping them around the compounds and the drop zones. It's important that these children are taken straight up to the classrooms, and then you return and drive away or walk away from the school. Those who hire boarders and to transport children to school, it is important that they get helmets for these young children. These border riders don't provide for helmets for young children, and during this rainy season we anticipate an increase in accidents. So where you have reckless border riders, you just need to know that there is a potential of injury of your young child who is being transported on a border. So a helmet is important. Then for those in boarding schools, we always remind parents and guardians to avoid smuggling prohibited items to schools, especially mobile phones, polythene bags, electric gadgets, and inflammables like lighters, matches, items like drugs, alcohols, and cigarette, energy drinks, even carrying a lot of cash on you, or giving your child a lot of cash and expensive items is something that is not encouraged. So it is important that we give those items that are recommended for school by the school and which we find appropriate for the age of the child or the school environment. So we call upon all school leaders, administrators in all districts to keep in mind that a secure environment is very critical during this school period, and we call upon all school administrators to liaise with our territorial commanders in case of any threats regarding their schools. So I want to wish all students a happy second term and urge them to report any crime and safety concerns to the school teachers, the LC, or police. Now, we had an incident in one of the international schools where we arrested a teacher and charged him to court for aggravated defilement. This operation was carried out by the Directorate of CID, where a teacher of Ambrosoli International School, Bugorobi, was arrested for the aggravated defilement of a 3.5-year-old female pupil. The facts gathered so far indicate that Belly Chirimwimana, who is a teacher of Burundian origin, during the months of February and March, would escort one of the girl childs in his classroom to the toilets, and while at the toilets he would get to use his fingers to inappropriately assault sexually this 3.5-year-old girl victim. The victim took the courage to report the gross misconduct to her parents, and the parents took time to report this matter to the police. Upon examination, the girl was found with bruises and signs of inflammation on her private parts. And in one of her complaints to the parents, she said that that particular teacher had bad manners and will be eaten by a dragon. So you could see that she was really affected, traumatized by this conduct at her age of 3.5 years. So we are concerned that more children could have been victimized by teacher Belly Chirimwimana, and do call upon parents and school administrators at Ambrosoli International School to try to talk to the children who are being taught by Belly Chirimwimana, and to find out whether there could have been more who are victimized by the suspect or not. We also want to thank the head of the school for reporting this matter to police. It truly showed that their first priority is always their pupils. This opportunity to promote awareness of some of the significant risks young school children face by trusted and often renowned professionals while in school. And we call upon all schools to carry out very thorough background checks to ensure that teachers with poor records or with previous criminal record are not hired. We keep on getting complaints of child abuse in school, especially in the use of inappropriate language sexually exploit imagery. Sometimes there are those who carry out prolonged hugging of children, fondling them, inappropriate kissing on the forehead of young children. All these are forms of abuse that we want to alert parents and school administrators against. It is also advisable that school administrators enforce rules, training, and provide reminders about high-risk situations, especially where a child or a pupil is left alone with a teacher or other staff in a private room, in a car, like escorting them in a toilet. All these high-risk situations really need to be taken care of. Together we can stop child abuse in schools and in our country. Terrible incident of domestic violence and attempted murder, which is being investigated by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. This incident happened in Nsambya Chimwanyi zone. So our Directorate of CID got information about a gentleman called Waligo Richard of Nsambya Chimwanyi, who has been married for 14 years with his wife called Namwase Esther. The two have been staying in an abusive relationship that culminated into the burning of the wife, where the suspect carried a saucepan full of hot beans on the 7th of April from a charcoal stove and poured it on the victim, significantly burning about 2/3 of the whole back and the upper part of the buttock area. The skin was peeled from the top up to the upper buttock area. Of course, they had conflict surrounding extramarital affairs and the fact that Waligo was not providing necessities for the 5 children. So the suspect escaped and went to Gomba, but we managed to track him down and had him arrested. So we want to thank Uganet, one of the NGOs that is involved in rehabilitating victims of domestic violence, for the medical and psychosocial support extended to the victim. Together with the Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Department at CID headquarters, they managed to rescue the victim, who even lacked financial support. From the very day that she was burnt, this lady, Namwase Esther, could not even go to hospital because she didn't have money. So she was carrying out some form of self-treatment, and she had started rotting. So we want to thank Uganet for coming out to offer financial and medical support to this victim of domestic violence.